5 yards from front to rear, and it's full of a lot of deep sand, and it's tough to shoot out of. And Harney, out of the rough, got it home, a shot that a lot of the fellas have not been able to make today. I think a lot of congratulations are to go to the greenskeeper in Brookline, Massachusetts, for the condition of the course. After a very severe winter here in New England, this course was in trouble, and they have had to really groom it and get it ready for this test by the world's greatest golfers. On Thursday, 150 players teed off in the first round, 136 pros, 14 amateurs. The field then was cut after the first 36 holes to the low 50s plus tie, and that brought us to a total of 51 for today. And here is an amazing statistic, thinking about the wind and the toughness of this course. Through the first 3 rounds, that means 150 players each of the first 2 rounds for 351 players in the third round, 351 tries at this course. There have been only 13 par or better rounds. There have been 8 par 71s. There were 2 subpar 70s, Harney and Cupid. And at 69, the best rounds of the tournament, 2 under, Palmer, Finsterwald, and the first day leader, Bob Gaeta. The lowest score in so far today is Gary Player's 296. Player had a very fine round here this afternoon. Scores are not easy to come by. The golf course is beating the players in this instance, and they don't like it. This is Jimmy Clark from 25 feet. "36 holes on this final day of the USGA Open, as always. The pins, to answer a lot of requests that we get on this question, are not changed between the morning and afternoon rounds. They do, however, cut the greens between rounds, and they roll them to take out the spike marks. Jimmy Clark is par 4. Now Paul Harney, who made a fine recovery shot out of the rough, will try for his birdie. And remember, Harney at the moment is just 2 shots behind the leader, Jackie Cupid. And Cupid, the Texan, still has a lot of holes to play. Dow Finsterwald tied for the lead going into this morning's third round, having a lot of trouble all day today. Harney reading the green to break right at the cup, and it did, but not quite enough. Leaves himself 16 inches now away from that hole. This is for the par 4 on the 17th hole. So Paul Harney gets his par 4. He stays 9 under par for the tournament, just 2 shots behind the leader. Jimmy Clark also had his par. We'll have more of the action in this final round of the 63 USGA Open Championship in just a moment.
Here's Paul Harney ready to tee off on the final hole for him here. And at the moment, Paul Harney is 9 over for the tournament, only 2 strokes behind the leader, Jackie Cupid. And Jackie Cupid just bogeyed the 12th hole, so Jackie Cupid goes 8 over par, which only puts him 1 stroke ahead of Arnold Palmer and Tony Lima. Harney, a tremendous hitter, good close-up, former Holy Cross golf captain. Now pretty much of a country club pro at the Sunset Oaks Country Club in Sunset, California. Here's Jimmy Clark. He's a veteran, just returned to the tournament tour. And you can see that ball bounce in the rough. You can also see the other marker put down by the 4 caddies. So it looks like both these drives will be in the rough. The leader in the clubhouse right now is Gary Player at 296, but they're closing in on Jackie Cupid. Jackie Cupid bogeyed the 12th. He is now only 1 ahead of Tony Lima and Arnold Palmer. You know, NBC continues to bring you the best in sports entertainment the year round. Each Saturday and Sunday throughout the regular season, it's Major League Baseball. You'll see the top teams in each league as they drive to the finish of their pennant races. Now, tomorrow afternoon, it's the Chicago White Sox meeting the Cleveland Indians. On Tuesday, July 9th, in color from Cleveland, the 1963 All-Star Baseball game, and in October, the sports highlight of the year, the World Series. Now, for you golf fans, we've brought you the Palm Springs Classic, the Tournament of Champions, the Buick Open, and the Thunderbird Classic, leading up to this USGA Open Championship, the biggest of them all. There's still more coming your way, because on September 7th and 8th, it's the World Series of Golf, pitting the winners of the Masters, Jack Nicklaus, the PGA champion, whoever that might be, he decided later, the British Open, and the winner of the 63rd USGA Open Championship. Then in October, it's the first live network coverage of the lady golfers in action, the Ladies Professional Golf Association Championship. These and many more exclusively on NBC, the top network for sports. We're following now Paul Harney and Jimmy Clark down the fairway. Paul Harney right now is only 2 strokes behind the leader now, as Jackie Cupid lost another. Cupid is +8 for the tournament. Lena is +9 along with Arnold Palmer. Paul Harney is +10. Bruce Crampton is 3 strokes behind along with Billy Maxwell and Julius Burris. So with this wind as flighty and as vigorous as it has been, this championship is still wide open. I have to be a bit quiet because Jimmy Clark out there looking at his ball in the rough is waiting for Ross Kuhn and Sam Snead to finish putting out on 18. I guess he's going to play short. A lot of the players have been doing this. It's amazing. The drives have been short here because you don't get much roll on this fairway. It's a little dead. The ball lands and doesn't roll very far after it does land. So some of the players this morning and this afternoon have been playing up close and then chipping onto the green, hoping to get their par by 1 putting. It's been fairly successful, but perhaps Jimmy Clark is going to go for it. He is using a wood, as you can see. He's out there about 220, 230 yards, about 180 yards to come in. The applause you hear is for Sam Snead and Ross Kuhn, who just putted out here on the 18th. Jimmy Clark hitting. It bounds down to the left-hand side of the fairway, just where the fans are pointing. It's still in the heavy rough. And now to Paul Harney. Harney only 2 strokes off the pace. 10 over for the tournament. You might have seen him yesterday on, or last weekend that is, on NBC TV as he came in even with Arnold Palmer at the Thunderbird. Paul Harney. He's going to try and make it. Right. He does. And he rolls over into the heavy rough. You can see the huge trees are overshadowing the green here right now. It makes it a little difficult to see that ball, but it did roll over. Here's a correction on the score. We understand that Paul Harney is just 1 behind the leader. Jackie Cupid is still our leader by 1 stroke. Palmer, Harney, and Lima are all a stroke behind. Now to the 16th and Jim MacArthur.
Well, down here at 16, Bruce Crampton just coming out of the trap. And we might mention that as Jackie Cupid has faltered a little bit, these 2 fellows down here become in contention. Bruce, 10 over, playing with Billy Maxwell, who is also 10 over. Both boys up here on the green. Now Crampton is going to mark. He's about 8 feet above the hole. Crampton right there. A tough putt in front of him. Crampton has played this hole well to date, whereas it's been a bogey hole for a lot of people. He has had 3 threes, one right after another. Maxwell's played it even better. He's had 2 pars and a birdie. Had that this morning. This is a putt that has been missed frequently and to the right on the low side. And it's happened once again, and Crampton will have to be content with a bogey 4. The pin now being removed. I'll mention something about that in a minute. A 4 for Crampton, and he goes 11 over. If you noticed that the pin has been left in, whereas on previous Saturdays you've seen it taken out, that's because this tournament is, of course, being played under USGA rules as distinguished from those of the PGA, which require it to be taken out from within 60 feet. And now Billy Maxwell with a 5-footer to remain at 10 over.
That's right. You have to force him up.
No.
For Maxwell, a par 3, he remains 10 over, and let's now go to Bud Palmer at 18.
The ball you see right there is Paul Harney's chip. As I mentioned, his long second shot went over the green. He chipped down, it rolled beyond. He's left himself about 10 feet. He is only 1 behind the leader. It is Jackie Cupid. Now Jimmy Clark is putting. Clark is plus 28 for the tournament, out of it. And he'll take probably tap this in for a bogey 5. That is a very important putt coming up. Paul Harney. From this position, the putt will break slightly to the left. Harney is only 1 stroke behind the leader, Jackie Cupid. 3 people are chasing Jackie: Harney, Palmer, and Lima. Bruce Crampton, Billy Maxwell, and Julius Burris are all 3 strokes behind that. Paul Harney, very great favorite here, as he's from Worcester, Massachusetts. He's had 2 pars and a bogey on this hole. This morning's round was a very fine 73. In fact, he and Dan Sykes had the lowest rounds of the morning. That shows you how strong the wind was blowing. A 2 over par 73. He started out 3 strokes behind our leader, Jackie Cupid. A very important putt for Paul Harney. Bogey 5 for Paul Harney here on the 10th hole. Puts him in as our new leader at 294. We'll have more of the 63rd National Open in just a moment. Now let's watch Sam Snead and learn how to get the feel of a winning golf shot.
Well, that's the 16th tee you're looking at up there. Tony Lima, as you can see on the scoreboard, 9 over for the tournament, playing with Walter Berkemo. And the hold up there is because of some action down at the 16th green. That's water right there. And that shot was coming up from the back of the 16th green. Dave Love, Jr. of Charlotte, North Carolina, wedging from it back to about 15 feet beyond. Love, 15 over for the tournament, and still in contention down here. Julius Boris at 11 over. Boris will be putting for a birdie. That's Love on the right, Boris the heavier. Julie, who's been hitting the ball magnificently. Not putting very well, though. Having a lot of trouble with it. Love still away. That's Tony Lima, and you can imagine what he's looking at. It's the scoreboard up near the 16th tee. Lima now 9 over, 1 stroke out at the moment. He'll be playing down here next. That's Dave Love. And for Love, just a shade low, a groan, as he will settle for a 4. And now as he taps it in, Julius Boris will have about a 10-foot downhiller, which could put him right back in the ball game. Boris, like Sneed, who went by here before, a member of the Wilson advisory staff, also a great favorite in New England. He grew up in Bridgeport, became a tremendous success there as an amateur, won among other things at Connecticut. Both the Open and the amateur. And had no trouble with that putt. And now Boris, by rolling in that birdie here at 16, goes to 10 over. That puts him just 2 out, and he has the 17th and 18th ahead of him, and Cupid, 8 under, is not in yet by any manner or means. Now looking back toward the 16th tee, and that's Walter Berkemo, and Berkemo too is in. He's well in contention here, only 10 over. And Berkemo dumps his in the bunker guarding the right front of the green. And now Tony Lima. Lima, we repeat, is 9 over par. Getting a laugh up there. Trying to grass up. And I noticed that some of it went one way and some went the other. That gives you an idea what that wind is like. Now Tony said. And for Lima, a beauty. He is stopped about 12 feet short of the flag here at 16. And smiling about it. We'll have more of this 1963 USGA Open Championship in just a moment. Now, we pause briefly for station identification. Well, marching down here to 16, Tony Lima and Walter Berkamo. Tony Lima trailing the leading Cupid by just 1 stroke, and Jackie playing in back of Lima, in case you're wondering. Walter Berkamo a stroke back. He's 10 over par. Walter known more for his match play ability, actually, than his medal play. He won the PGA at that. And there's Tony over there. Lima hitting the ball very well and in great position on this hole. Probably the closest we've seen since this morning's play was finished. The one great shot then being one that Don January rolled in and out of the cup. Would have been a 1, of course. The hand for Lima. Walter Berkamo now getting in the trap to check things. The sand play has been sensational, and one reason we may have mentioned earlier is that the sand here is of an excellent consistency and constant. It's fairly light, easy to play out of. Berkamo coming up with a good one, about 4 feet beyond, and gets the kind of hand you deserve for a shot like that. And while we're waiting, let's go on over to Jim Simpson at 15.
And there on your screen is Arnold Palmer, about 35 feet away from the pin. This would be a birdie putt should he make the long one uphill. He's playing with Dean Refram, and of course, Palmer right now is 1 shot in back of Jackie Cupid, who is back of him on the course. These are Palmer's birdie chances, 16, 17, and 18, or else have Cupid come back to him about 35 feet uphill for the bird. Arnie's Army is here watching. Here's the putt. Coming up, and just by on the right-hand side. Arnold Palmer misses his chance for the bird that would have tied him. Back to 16 and Jim McCarthy.
At 16, Tony Lima making a birdie try, 12-footer. Tony low by about a foot. A tap in, and he remains as he was when he came in here, 9 over par. Walter Berkamo left with a 4-footer downhill. This 53 PGA champion, by the way, is regarded as one of the great short putters of the game. And you see why. He's the first one to make that particular putt that we've seen come through here this afternoon. Over to Jim Simpson now at 15.
There's Dean Refram with a short 2-inch putt for his par 4 as he just had his 3rd shot. And here's Arnold Palmer. It could be tricky for Palmer, about 2 feet downhill. He's got to make this one now, of course, to remain for this particular round 3 over and 9 over for the tournament. 1 shot in back of Jackie Cupid. There's his par 4. Arnold Palmer remains 9 over par, 1 shot in back of Jackie Cupid. We'll have more of the action in this final round of the 63 USGA Open Championship in just a moment.
Well, the next shot you see will be Arnie Palmer there, teeing off at 16. Palmer's had 3 threes here, and he could sure use a birdie for a change. 1 behind the leader. And Arnie is safely home at 16, about 30 feet above the flag. That's to the left as he'd play it. In good shape. Playing with him, Dean Refram. Dean giving it a good run for a while. But he has slipped and gone to 17 over par. And Refram also safely home and about 35 feet to the right and rear as they march down here. Let's go to Jim Simpson at 15.
And on the fairway on 15 is Jackie Cupid with his second shot. Here it comes from about 140 yards away. In the rough to the right of the green. And that will be a difficult pitch for Jackie. Coming out of the rough, off the collar, and up next to the pin. He leads by one shot over Arnold Palmer and Tony Lima. Playing with him is Dow Finsterwall, who was even after the first two rounds, but this morning went to a 79. Dow, the choice of many. He's been hot over these last 5 weeks. He won the 500 Festival. He has scored high in the last 4 tournaments and has won more than $22,000 over the last 5 weeks. Here comes Dow Finsterwall. And his shot is short and on the right side, sneaking down over the hill toward the bunker. So both Dow Finsterwall and Jackie Cupid will have difficult shots to the green in order to get their par 4s. We'll have more of the 63rd National Open in just a moment. Right now, here's Sam Snead with 2 great secrets to winning golf.
Down at 16 on the par 3, 175-yarder at the back of the green, Dean Refram there in 1. And by a good 5 feet, that long lag putt of Refram's downhill and to the left. But the putt that really counts down here is the one this fellow got to try for. Arnold Palmer, about 30 feet above and to the left of the hole as he played it. This putt is a downhiller as well. And to repeat something we've said often this afternoon, this putt, be it short or long, has invariably been hit to the low side of the hole. Palmer a stroke behind the leader. At this point. If you can hear us above the roar, that just means that the 1960 Open winner is tied for the lead in this one. And now back to 15 and Jim Simpson.
There's Jackie Cupid off the green, and he has now been tied by Arnold Palmer. And he has a difficult shot out of the rough from about 25 feet away. He must stop it close enough to get his par. Here's the little chip. It might run too strong, but it runs. Cupid goes 7 under and has grabbed back the lead within 30 seconds. Jackie Cupid, one of 9 children, one of 5 golfing brothers, 25 years old, tips his hat to the huge crowd here at 15 with one of the most difficult little soft pitch shots out of the rough, has grabbed back the lead. He has gone 7 over par, and Palmer at 8 over par remains a shot back. Burroughs and Lima are now 2 strokes off the pace. This is Dow Finsterwall with his putt for a par. And it has left everybody here at 15 gasping. Finsterwall drops into his putt for the par and remains 8 over for the round. Now let's go up to 17, and here's Chick Hearn.
At the 17th, Arnold Palmer, whose Arnie's Army just gave him a tremendous ovation when he made the deuce, and that made the chip by Coupet, and Coupet knew what that loud cry meant, even more difficult.
We've got time, so let's...
Palmer reaching back for a little extra. And his tee shot is magnificent, 260 yards into the wind and right out in the middle of the fairway. What a shot by Palmer. Arnold with that pressure putt. And Tony Lima up around the green of 17, chipping too strongly out of a trap back into the crowd and way off the green. Dean Refram, the youngster who played football at Michigan State. And he, too, cracks a beautiful drive out into the fairway here in the par 4 17th. We'll have more of the action in this final round of the 63 USGA Open Championship in just a moment. Look at this shot. It's going in. What a score this is going to be.
This is the 16th green once again. Jackie Cupid has just landed on here safely. He's about 35 feet to the left and front. As you heard just a moment ago, he regained the lead by chipping in on 15. Playing with him, Dow Finsterwald, who has been beset by trouble today. Dow 16 over. Coming up with his shot. And he, too, is on the green. Once again, you could see the ball land without any stuff on it. The wind behind it taking it off. Finsterwald walking along dejectedly, doing very well after 2 rounds. That's he there on the left with the white hat. Repeat that Jackie Cupid just regained the lead. The Western Open champion of 1962 picked it up by chipping in on 17 just after hearing the roar down here. That could mean only one thing, and that was that Palmer had gotten a birdie. And now let's go over to 17 and Chick Hearn.
Arnold Palmer, gray slacks, red sweater, blue golf glove, and that ever-present cigarette, walking nervously up the fairway so that he can get a better view of this rolling green. Both he and playing partner Dean Refram hit tremendous drives here. Refman cut the corner a little bit more on the dogleg, 17th, which reaches out 365 yards, and Palmer's straightaway tee shot in length actually outdistanced Refram by about 20 yards. But nonetheless, because of coming just around the bunker there, part of the dogleg, Refram will shoot last. Palmer with a sensational putt on 16, only to be matched by the magnificence of a chip shot by Jackie Cupid. So Palmer 1 shot back. He can hit either a 9 or a wedge from where he is. He's about 100 yards out. Throws it at the tree, trying to draw the ball. Looks like a beauty. Comes up, but because of the contour of the green, that swell in the middle of the green, some people like to call it a hogback, the ball wouldn't roll straight. It caught that rise and fell away from the hole finally in dying moments. He will have about 18 feet over that ridge for his birdie putt. And if he could get it, he would tie Jackie Cupid for the lead of the 1963 USGA Open Championship at Brookline, Massachusetts. First prize money, $16,000, and all the glory that goes with it. Here's Jackie Cupid now, down on the 16th. Jim MacArthur looks as though Jackie Cupid might have a question for one of the USGA officials there.
He apparently called one of the officials over here.
I can't hear him. I can't hear MacArthur.
Well, here's Cupid now, stepping off his putt down here at 16. Jackie with about 40 feet. looking that over very carefully. This putt is pretty tough because he is going to have to swing around from left to right. And the one thing he doesn't want to do is let this one get away from him. He's going downhill, and I'm sure he knows as well as anybody who's played this green that when it gets by the hole here, it's apt to keep right on going. There have been several go by. Bob Charles, for one, was about 15 feet in the direction up there of Kupit's and came by at least 8 this morning. Jackie Kupit in front by a stroke. Arnold Palmer trailing him by 1. An excellent putt because, although he missed it, he left himself just about the right distance. That is, the ball was hit to what would have been hole high and only is about 1.5 feet below the cup, the straight uphill at left. Now Dow Finsterwald, who hit his tee shot past the flag by about 25 feet, also going downhill in this rather bowl-shaped green. And there's a case of another one that did get away. One of the best putters in the game, Finsterwald, has gone by about 4 feet. To Chick Hearn at 17.
About a foot past and the grimace on the face of a man who has won $401,000 on the tour.
Still ahead by 1 stroke, Jackie Kupit with his try for a par at 16. Bangs it right into center for a par 3, retains the lead by a stroke. And to Chick Hearn again at 17.
Coming down to the final hole on the 72-hole route of the USGA Open, 1963 style. Here's young Dean Refram from Chicago. Grew up adjacent to Medina Golf Club, used to tight, narrow courses. In the first 3 rounds, 72, 71, and 80, having his troubles here this afternoon. A very fine birdie putt for Dean Refram. Dean was 1 over par 36 on the front side. On the back side, he ran into 2 double bogeys, 3 single bogeys, and that's his first birdie. Palmer in the tournament, 73, 69, 77 this morning's round. Opened this afternoon by bogeying the first and second hole. He bogeyed the 8th, and he bogeyed the 11th. He has fashioned birdies on 10, and as you just saw, on 16. He's a shot behind Kupit. Palmer putting on the 17th for his par 4. Arnold missed it. Arnold Palmer leaves the 17th, going 9 over par for the tournament, giving Jackie Kupit now a 2-shot lead as he moves away to the 17th. And we'll have more of the 63rd National Open in just a moment. Now watch Sam Snead show you one of the distance secrets to power golf. The 17th hole now. Reminding you again, it's a sharp dogleg left, 365 yards in par 4. And on this hole now, a young man who may be destined for perhaps a greater reward tonight than he ever dreamed possible at a young age, Jackie Kupit. Jackie, 5'9", 175-pounder, born down there in Longview, Texas. Turned professional in 1960. A most likable youngster. Kupit spells his name C-U-P-I-T. He says if you want to remember how to say it properly, just remember cue stick, like in pool. It's Cupid. Winner of 2 tour championships. The most recent was the 62 Western Open at Medina. This is his 3rd Open tournament. He tied for 9th in the 1961 Open at Oakland Hills after shooting a 3rd round 67th. And then last year he tied for 17th over at Pittsburgh. Jackie makes the tour with his lovely wife and youngster. She says one of her biggest jobs in the tour is getting babysitters. Dow Finsterwald, with whom he is playing, has had a most disappointing day. Dow 73 in the opening round Thursday. A brilliant 2 under par 69 yesterday. Came back this morning after being in a 3-way tie for the tournament lead going out into the 3rd round. He had a 79. He turned the front side today, 6 over in 41 in this final round. Now here is Jackie Cupid. Jackie conferring here with a more veteran player and perhaps getting some sage advice. Dow Finsterwald speaking with him. And you can imagine the pressure that this 25-year-old Cupid boy must be feeling. How he would like to have the tee shot of Dow Finsterwald, who's out in the middle. Not only must you play the natural terrain, the beauty and the toughness of the country club here at Brookline, Massachusetts, but you today must also play a buffeting, non-conforming wind, a wind that is certainly not true. At times it swirls, kicks up dust from the racetrack that surrounds the 18th fairway. Finsterwald will shoot first. He is just slightly farther out than was Arnold Palmer. Dow in 9-iron territory. There's a tree guarding the right front of this green, so the boys shooting to the left rear of the green are trying to hook the ball or draw it slightly. And with that wind, it's sometimes hard to control when you do that. Finsterwald's shot will be long, comes over the back and into the crowd, and I believe that the crowd perhaps stopped the ball before it got in serious trouble back here. Jackie Cupid, a 2-shot lead in the field now, playing on the 71st of a 72-hole tournament. His ball is not in the sand, but it is in a stand of grass 3 to 4 inches long. He must carry the ball about 130 to 35 yards. So you can imagine how tough this shot is. 2, he will not have a level stance. He'll have an uphill stance. It'll give him a tendency to hook the ball. Can't quite get comfortable. He hits it short of the trap in front of the green. Well, he could have been thinking many things. He knows he has a 2-shot lead on everyone in the field. He might have been playing 18th green and Bud Palmer.
Here's Arnold Palmer after a good drive on 18. He's out in the middle of the fairway with a rather difficult shot into this elevated green. The difficulty mainly because of the wind. About 155 yards. It's going to be on the green, but to the right. Is it? Oh, it just gets on. That wind started pushing it back. It just got on. Leaves himself, I would say, about a good 40-foot putt. And to 17 and Chick Hearn.
Jackie Cupid out in front of the green. His ball is 65 yards from the pin. As he looks up to the green, he is below it. This is a par 4 hole. He was in trouble with his tee shot. Now this is his third shot. Good line of flight. On these very fast greens, that ball comes off into the collar by about 18 inches. How big now does that short putt that Arnold Palmer missed here on this hole look? The fortunes of golf, the ebb and tide of victory and defeat. You know, holding championships is one of a number of functions of the United States Golf Association. The USGA is an organization of several thousand golf and country clubs. And as the governing body of American golf, the USGA makes the basic rules of the game, such as the rules for play, for handicapping, for golf balls and clubs, and for amateur status. And then, too, the USGA has a scientific department called the Green Section, whose turf grass experts give advice on golf course maintenance. And this is a behind-the-scenes service which has not only helped to condition courses for championships, but has benefited golfers everywhere. Here's Finsterwall's chip. Dow is now lying 3 on this par 4 hole. Finsterwall was 6 over par this afternoon on the front side of 41. On the back side, he is 2 over coming to here, so he's 8 over for this round. No one will equal or break par today in the 36 holes of play. Jackie Cupid, who will come to the rear of the green and use his mallet-headed putter off the collar, is leading the tournament. He is 7 over par for the day. Should he be able to par this and 18, he would wind up with a 291 total. The best score in is Julius Boros, 9 over, 293. Tony Lima at 295 is in. It's a 26-foot shot. Oh, he leaves himself a tough putt coming back. This is the one thing that I believe Cupid was considering when he stood back in that bunker for his second shot, making sure that he did not double bogey the hole. Now, he has a real pressure putt left. Arnold Palmer, when he missed the short putt here, went to 9 over par. Paul Harney is in 10 over. Bruce Crampton's in at 295. Billy Maxwell, 295. Dow Finsterwald from 4.5 feet. A very true putt for a par 4 on the 17th hole. So Finsterwald stays 8 over par for today, 16 over par for the tournament, which would give him a 300 total for the 72 holes. Prior to the tournament, conjectures were that the score winning it might be at 280. Some said they'd take 282 and try it. I remember Sam Snead said he'd take 284 and not play. Well, he was pretty close, because if Cupid wins it, the best he could make would be 292 if he makes this putt and pars 18. He is putting for a bogey 5. And if he misses this, you can start thinking about ties in the U.S. Open of 1963. The putt appears to be 3.5 feet long. He missed it. So, that means that Arnold Palmer putting on 18 here. What's he got there, Bud?
Oh, he left himself about 5 to 6 feet, I would say. Maybe 5 at the most.
Cupid. Double bogey 6 on the 17th hole for Jackie Cupid. And that means that Julie Boros in with 9 under par. Cupid and Lima and Palmer all tied at the moment for the championship. Palmer left himself a tough putt up there on 18. Let's go to Bud Palmer, and we'll cover that action along with Palmer and Refram.
Well, you're seeing Dean Refram line went up, as you mentioned. Julie Burris is in the clubhouse with 293. He is a former U.S. Open winner as Dean Refram putts here. Refram is out of it. I'll give you some other scores as he's putting here. Paul Harney at 295 at 295. Billy Maxwell, Bruce Crampton, Tony Lima. Nice putt by Dean Refram. At 296, Gary Player and Walter Berkemo. Refram will probably tap this in. That's a 5 for Refram, a bogey 5. Puts him plus 18. And the roar you hear goes up as Arnold Palmer looks at the scoreboard, and for the first time here, though you heard it before, the crowd on 18 realizes that Jackie Cupid picked up that double bogey on 17, and now it's all tied up. So if Arnold Palmer sinks this putt, he will go into a first-place tie with Julie Burris. Here's Jackie Cupid driving on 18, following right behind Arnold Palmer. Arnold Palmer now going up, as you hear in the background, the whop of Jackie Cupid striking his drive. Arnold Palmer lining this up. Don't forget, Arnold missed that short putt on 17. It was about the same for a bogey. If he makes this, he ties about 5 feet with Julie Burris, who's in the clubhouse. A leaf from these large elms disturbs him. I don't blame it. He walks away from it. There was a elm leaf came down from these lovely trees that guard this 18th green at this beautiful traditional course here at Brookline. This putt for a tie with Julie Burris. Burris is in the clubhouse at 293. How about it? He gets it! He gets it! Great pressure putt by Arnold Palmer, and as he relieves, he puts him into a tie at 293 with Julie Burris. Now it all depends what happens here with Jackie Cupid. If Jackie Cupid can birdie this final hole, he will win it. But if he pars it, he'll go into a tie. And we'll have more of the action in this final round of the 63 USG Open Championship in just a moment. The ball does fly out of there with little control. He also has to contend with this tremendous elm I've mentioned, which overhangs this 18th green by about 25 feet. And you can see the indecision as he goes from one club to the other. He knows he has to get down into, once he gets on, perhaps a birdie. Oh, a birdie, he'd win it. It's in the air. He's going for the pin. Bounds on. There it is. And he has about a 15-foot putt, I would say. Jackie Cupid, a tremendous shot. He's had 2 bogeys and a par. If he sinks this putt, ladies and gentlemen, you're looking at your U.S. Open champion for 1963, young Jackie Cupid. If he misses the putt and pars it, he'll be tied with Burris, and Arnold Palmer will have a 3-way playoff. He went for it boldly, did not allow enough for that little left break. It broke off on him. And he ties. That brings him in at 293. So we'll have a 3-way playoff. Here at Brookline certainly has not been taken over by these pros, because the winning score or the tying score at 293 was 9 over par. At 294, 10 over was Paul Harney. 295, Billy Maxwell, Bruce Crampton, and Tony Lima. Those are the winners you see, all finished 9 over par. That is for the 4 rounds. Harney was 10 over, as I just mentioned. And 295, I'll go over it again, Billy Maxwell, Bruce Crampton, and Tony Lima. 296, Gary Player and Walter Berkamo. 297, Dan Sykes. At 300, Don January, Dow Finsterwild. 302, Mike Fekchik and Lionel Hebert. And also Bobby Nichols. At 303 was Bob Charles. 304 was Dave Marr and Gardner Dickinson. At 305 was Otto Greiner.
Well-wishers and autograph hounds convoy the players to the practice ground on Sunday afternoon. The golden anniversary of the 1913 Open, another three-way playoff. Swinging from left to right, Palmer, Cupid, Boris. We're almost ready to go. 18 holes, of course. Julius Boris, 43 years old, originally from Connecticut, always at his best in the rich, important tournaments. Arnold Palmer, 33, from Latrobe, Pennsylvania. He's involved in a playoff for the Open for the second straight year. Jackie Cupid, 25, a native of Longview, Texas. He has 5 older brothers who are all golf pros. It's an ideal day for golf. Saturday's high winds are gone. Only a mild breeze is moving across Brookline's ancient acres. The scoring could be quite low today. By the way, more than 12,000 fans are on hand. An enormous crowd for a playoff. Palmer is off poorly. He plays his third from the rough to the right of the first green. And he's left it very short. Cupid lies 2 off the back edge. He's gauged that slippery slope just right. Pars for Cupid and Boris, but Palmer's bid slides by and he falls a stroke behind. Arnold's a bit under the weather today with an intestinal disorder. The third, an exacting par 4, proves to be a most decisive hole. Cupid misplays his third after hooking his approach, and now he'll be playing 4 from a greenside bunker. Those greens are really fast now. Palmer's third. And that's going to be long. Cupid, a 6, 2 over par. Palmer, a 5, 1 over par. Boris, a solid par 4, and he goes out in front. After increasing his lead with a birdie on the 4th, Julius sets up another birdie on the 5th with a picture postcard 9-iron about a yard from the hole. Palmer hitting a 9. It lands and dies on the front portion of the green. He and Cupid, the first man to play his approach here, both lie some 40 feet below the cup. Cupid, he'll have to wrap this one firmly to get it up the slope. It's got the line. A sensational birdie by Jackie Cupid, and the gallery roars. Boris now. He gets his birdie. On the par 3 7th, Boris lobs a delicate wedge pitch from the collar of rough. He's been masterful with that shot today. He's also holding those critical 3 and 4 footers. Here's that little soft wedge from the rough again on the 8th. How well he plays that shot. Another good par. Julius seems well in command of this playoff now, en route to still another birdie on the 9th for a 33 out. 3 shots ahead of Palmer, 4 ahead of Cupid. On the dangerous 11th, trouble for Cupid in the heavy rough off the tee. And in the rough once more on his long approach over the water hazard. He's headed for a 5. For Palmer, the 11th is a disaster. He's headed for a 7 after hooking his tee shot into the woods and taking 3 to recover. Arnold's out of the playoff now. A last-ditch rally on the final 4 holes being too little and too late. Boris just misses another birdie on the 11th, but his par widens his lead to 7 shots on Palmer, 5 on Cupid. On the 13th, however, Boris faltered for the first time, pulling his 2nd into the woods. His 3rd, from a very tight lie, trickled only a few yards forward. His 4th, wedged over a bunker, ran on, and finally over the green. Playing 5. And that tidy chip pulls him together. Down in 6, 2 over par. Despite this misadventure, Boris leads Cupid by 3 shots. Settling down immediately, he maintained that margin as the players came to the 17th. Here, after a fine iron shot by Boris 15 feet from the flag, Cupid comes through with an equally accurate shot. If Cupid can sink this birdie putt, it will really tighten things up. Right in the middle. Boris now. He's matched Cupid's birdie. That was the stroke of a champion, that breaking 15-foot pressure putt. Boris moves down the home hole with a secure 3-shot lead. After a drive that splits the fairway, an intelligently played approach carries well over the guarding bunkers and safely onto the back of the green. Julius Boris has the 1963 Open Championship wrapped up now. He has played outstandingly good golf today. His chipping and putting have been particularly fine. He's had 10 one-putt greens. A well-earned ovation greets his arrival at the 18th green. Down the slope goes his long approach putt. Close to the hole. A 4-4-70, 1 under par. The new champion is congratulated by Palmer and Cupid. At the trophy presentation, the 1963 champion chats with the man who carried the day at Brookline half a century before him, Francis Ouimet, America's first great golf hero. Samuel Wolcott, president of the country club, extols the winner. What's Julius Boris thinking about? Very possibly his first victory in the Open 11 years ago at Northwood in Dallas. He was 32 then, in his 2nd year as a professional. Today at 43, he's the oldest American ever to win the Open. Receiving the trophy for the 2nd time, he looks fit and fresh. But then a man is likely to be at his best when through skill and purpose, he has captured the world's premier championship.